practice today presented by SiriusXM. Greenberg and Eric Allen live here in Florham Park as the Jets and Bills are preparing for their Week 14 matchup in Buffalo and EA. Sam Darnold healthy enough to play against the Bills in the 7-1-6 this weekend. He could make his return for the first time since Week 9.
Limited practice all week prior to the game against the Tennessee Titans. He was a game day inactive for the third consecutive game. But, Greens, as you know, you've been braving the elements out there. The cold. Sam Darnold has participated full in each of the Jets' 2 practices this week. Todd Bowles said after the Titans game that he could have played. He just needed more reps. Well, Darnold is getting those reps this week. He really is itching to return to the football field, and we could see him out there on Sunday.
Kudos to Sam Darnold for wearing short sleeves 2 days ago at practice. Right there, he's in the long sleeve.
Where's the wetsuit, Greens?
The wetsuit was 2 days ago. He went to the long sleeves yesterday.
Yeah, he really made a statement out there on Wednesday saying, hey, listen, the cold doesn't bother me. I might be a Southern California surfer dude, but I'll be fine if the conditions are tough in Buffalo. But he went with the long sleeves out there. I probably, from a fashion statement-wise, I probably would have went black underneath the black practice jersey. What do you think?
I don't know. I think either looks fine.
On a serious note, though, but look at him going through the footwork there. He feels fine on that strained right foot. So at this point in time, it's not even a conversation, is Sam Darnold healthy? Mm-hmm. He is healthy now. It's where is he in terms of shaking off those cobwebs? And I think he's going to be fine. He's itching to get out there and play the Buffalo Bills. Remember, Greens, it's been over a month since he's played. Last time we saw him was in Miami, South Florida, November 4th.
Yeah, the weather was a little bit different in South Florida compared to what it's going to be in Buffalo. So if Sam Darnold does get the start this weekend, what do you hope to see out of him after taking a couple games off?
I'm going to talk about this over the next couple of days as we continue to discuss this game. You just want him to have good eyes and good feet. Against the Miami Dolphins, the last time we saw him play, I thought his eyes were a little bit all over the place, and his feet were not underneath him. He had the 4 interceptions. In fact, in the 3 games prior to Darnold going down, he completed just 47% of his passes and had half of his 14 interceptions, 7 interceptions over the course of those 3 games. He always talks about trusting my eyes and letting it rip. That's all I want to see from Sam Darnold on Sunday. Just going back there, going through his reads, being confident, and letting it go and having some fun.
If Darnold does, in fact, get the start this Sunday, this Sam Darnold-Josh Allen matchup was the one back in April that everyone pegged to be the future of the AFC East. Neither of these quarterbacks played in Week 10 because Josh Allen was hurt. Sam Darnold was hurt, so it was Matt Barkley and Josh McCown. And in Week 10, that was Josh McCown's first start of the season at the time. So if it is Darnold, that means that Josh Allen will be starting for the Bills because he's back from injury. This is a rookie matchup that could be one for the AFC East for the next decade or so.
Yeah, I like both of these guys, Greens. We've discussed this since all the way back in the spring, and my 2 favorite signal callers in the 2018 draft class all along were Darnold and Josh Allen. Very different players, but they share similar characteristics in they both can make any throw. They're very athletic. They have good feet that helps them make plays inside the pocket, and as we've seen from Josh Allen over the last couple of weeks, helps them make plays outside the pocket. This guy's been a whirling dervish making plays out there, spinning people around. And also, I talked to Jordan Jenkins about it this week, Greens. He said he's looking to embarrass people in terms of how he rushes the football. Big arm for Josh Allen.
You spoke to Chris Brown of BuffaloBills.com earlier this week as well on the official Jets podcast. You can check that out on NewYorkJets.com. But he said that Josh Allen, as a comparison, reminds a lot of people of Cam Newton. And you don't necessarily think that of him. But I think that Josh Allen's rushing, and we'll dive into this a little later, he's third in the NFL for quarterbacks in terms of rushing yards right now. And Josh Allen, not only that, I think Jordan Jenkins said it best, that he's looking to embarrass you. He's hurdled someone. He's run over people.
Anthony Barr, right, of the Vikings. Yep.
Didn't Chris Brown say that Josh Allen had a good angle on Kiko Alonso, and Kiko Alonso bit the dust against the Dolphins last week. So I think that really Josh Allen's rushing game is known from a stats perspective, but I don't think fans realize just how good of a rusher he is.
He's an impressive athlete, but the quarterback the Jets have here, too, is an impressive athlete himself. And Darnold is also another guy who can make plays off script. And I know the Jets fan base is eager to see something positive happen with their team. Well, I think Sam Darnold could provide a lift for not only guys inside the locker room, but the fans watching their team over these final 4 games, because every time you're on the football field, it's an opportunity to get better. Another thing what we saw out of Josh Allen is he missed, 3 or 4 games with the elbow. Well, he's come back the last 2 weeks and has played well. That's what you want to see from Darnold, that he missed 3 games, had the bye week in there. Now he's chomping at the bit. Had an opportunity to take a step back, watch Josh McCown orchestrate the offense, not only during practice, but out there in the games. So maybe some time away will help Darnold here down the stretch.
I'm very excited personally for this weekend's matchup if Darnold, in fact, gets the start, because I think that this is the future of the AFC East on display for the first time. Again, this is what fans expected in April in Week 10. But it had to get delayed till Week 14 because of injuries to both quarterbacks. But let's talk about the Bills' defense. But before we talk about it, let's have the coaches talk about it, because the Bills right now second in the NFL in total defense, number 1 against the pass. This is what Coach Bowles had to say about the Bills.
Well, they're flying around. They're playing very well on defense. Up front, they're getting after it. In the back, they get turnovers, and they play great coverage, so they're very well coached.
Man, they don't allow big plays. They don't have many big plays. They're extremely sound. They're aggressive. They're strong. They're fast. You name it, they do a good job. And it's going to be a big challenge. We obviously remember them from the past. Hadn't been too long ago, so we got to play a good game.
High praise for the Bills' defense from Coach Bowles and offensive coordinator Jeremy Bass. Before we dive into the Bills' defense a little further, it is time for In the Game with EA here on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. No Bills-related questions this weekend.
I figured you'd go something with chicken wings or something.
No, we're back to football here on Practice Today. Since 2012, cornerback Trumaine Johnson, who had an interception returned for a touchdown last week against the Titans, now has returned 4 interceptions for touchdowns, which is tied for 5th in the league for active corners. Who is ahead of him? And EA will guess his answers later on in the show. If you have your answers, please feel free to comment.
That's a ridiculous question. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. But we figured you were getting on a hot streak. December came around. We had to cool you off a little bit.
Yeah, you guys are freezing me out.
The questions are good. They're good trivia questions.
Yes.
All right,
it is a good one.
All right.
Nice play by Trumaine Johnson on that pick 6 against the Titans.
Beautiful play.
By the way, did you watch Thursday Night Football at all?
I did watch Thursday Night Football.
Wow.
I know.
Derrick Henry.
I was not expecting that.
That was some video game numbers.
It was.
Yeah, looked like myself versus my nephew in Madden, and of course.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in real life.
No, because my nephew would have been the Titans last night, and I would have been the Jaguars.
Yeah, you don't strike me as a Madden player.
Back in the day, I was. I was a big college football guy. They still make that game?
No, they stopped.
That's ridiculous.
They stopped, but it is a very expensive used game at GameStop still.
Okay.
All right, let's move on here to the Jets and Bills Week 14 in Buffalo. We talked about the Bills defense for a quick second. They're number 1 in the league against the pass right now, and if it's Sam Darnold, if it's Josh McCown's a little more familiar with the Bills defense, but the Bills defense is flying around.
I'm glad they opted to put Tre'Davious White up there on that graphic, because you don't hear a lot about Trey White, but I asked Jamal Adams about him this week because they played together at LSU, and he loves the guy. He said, oh, yeah, he's okay. But then in a serious tone, he talked about, hey, listen, this guy's a shutdown cornerback in the National Football League. Remember, Jamal Adams was picked 6th in 2017, and then the Bills traded back. Kansas City went up and got Patrick Mahomes. Bills traded back. They get Trey White with the 27th overall selection. The other thing that I talked to Chris Brown about, because you mentioned the podcast this week, Greens, is that the Bills' safeties, they really disguise late. So this is going to be a big-time challenge for Sam Darnold in terms of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. That's a very good safety combination. I know the Jets are high on their safeties, rightfully so. Tough break for Marcus May this year, laying on injured reserve after playing only 6 games. But these Bills safeties are going to try to confuse the rookie.
The Bills' defense from weeks 9 to 13 have held opposing quarterbacks to 56% completion, 135 yards, 1.25 touchdowns a game, 1.5 interceptions a game. So the defense clearly flying around. The one area that you could exploit the Bills' defense, at least from a statistical standpoint.
Maybe you run the football, right?
Well, I was going to say the red zone, 28th in the red zone. However, the Jets are not a good red zone offense this year. And last week, Jason Myers kicked 5 for 5 from field goals, and yes, he's had a tremendous year, but you really want to see the Jets punch it in.
Yeah, you're right about that. Myers has been incredible. I think he's up to 28 out of 30 on the season, but when you go 0 of 3 in the red zone on your trips inside the 20 and your opponent goes 3 of 5, that is how you lose football games in a game that you dominated. Scoreboard-wise, I don't know. Physically, I thought the Jets were winning the battles in the trenches for the most part early in the game. It kind of changed in the second half, but from a scoreboard perspective, you were in charge of that game, and the Jets just have to find something that they can hang their hat on inside the 20. It's been tough so far this season.
You mentioned the running game. Well, the Jets got back to the running game in Tennessee last weekend. 156 total yards. Spencer Long didn't play because of an illness. Dakota Dozier got the start at left guard.
Great job by him.
And Spencer Long, full practice yesterday. That was the first time this week after recovering from illness. And then Jonathan Harrison at center, of course, with James Carpenter going down on IR. But you look at the stats here, 156 yards last week against the Titans. The previous 5 games for the Jets, a total of 365 yards. That's 73 yards a game on average.
And they average 4.7 yards a clip. But the injury we have to watch out for, Greens, at practice today is what's happening with Isaiah Crowell.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Dealing with the toe injury, has not practiced at all this week. So the Jets' backfield might rely even more so on Eli McGuire this week, and, of course, Trenton Cannon.
Isaiah Crowell last week, 21 carries, 98 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. And I think really what it boils down to, at least for last week, the Jets really stuck to the run game throughout the course of 60 minutes here in Nashville. And let's say Isaiah Crowell can't go. This is going to be the time for Eli McGuire to receive the bulk of the carries because most people think of Eli McGuire as a quick-twitched back, and maybe not the guy that can get 20 carries like Isaiah Crowell does. But I think Eli McGuire with a larger role is going to shine, not only because he can both rush the ball between the tackles on the outside and he can catch, but he's a great pass protector.
Yeah, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield too, Greens. But I got a question for you. You said Spencer Long's coming back in terms of he's been practicing full, which is a good sign. Who you starting at left guard? That's a decision you have to make internally because Jonathan Harrison's taken over that center position. I would assume it's Long, but Dozier really did step up in his first start of the year. Guy's only been active a couple times, but the Jets did rush for over 150 in Tennessee, and that was nice to see, get that run game going. Now the next step for the Jets offense, though, as I'm going to let you answer this question, is they got to get it going through the air as well.
So the question still remains, who do I start at left guard?
Yeah.
I think that's a tough one because you don't know what the Jets would have done with Spencer Long at left guard last week. Personally, I think that I might start Spencer because what has Spencer done to lose you that job or to lose that job? I don't know.
No, I don't think he's done anything.
I do think that it is a fascinating debate because the Jets had a very effective ground game last week without him.
Well, I was just impressed by the offensive line's performance and and we're going to talk about this more later. The Jets got beat decisively in the trenches in Week 10 when the Buffalo Bills came to MetLife Stadium. And they owe the Bills something in terms of just having a better ball game and matching that physical intensity at the line of scrimmage.
Defensively speaking, Jamal Adams said earlier this week that It's a little personal for him because the Bills came into MetLife in Week 10 and they smacked around the Jets. And this is the second week in a row that the Jets are facing a mobile quarterback. Last week, Marcus Mariota. Very different athlete than Josh Allen, though. Mariota more of a speed guy. Not that Josh Allen's slow, but Josh Allen is clearly a lot bigger than him. And in his past 2 games, 234 yards rushing for Allen?
234, he rushed for 135 against the Dolphins.
On just 9 carries, by the way.
Yeah, and the Dolphins after the game, Greens, I read some articles, and they had a lot of high praise for Josh Allen because it's tough defending a guy who's 6'5", 237. He can run like the wind, who's strong, tough to take down. And also, what I'll be watching this week is I'm very curious to see is Allen looking at one read, coming off, and then tucking it, or is he going through his progressions? I think ultimately he will be used as a runner in the National Football League at times, but in terms of his development and how the Jets defend him on Sunday, right now, can he beat you just from staying in the pocket? Because he's going to have to learn how to do that over the course of his career.
Really quickly, let's talk about this Bills passing offense. Josh Allen hasn't thrown for more than 245 yards this season. The Bills also released Kelvin Benjamin earlier this week, as well as Andre Holmes. Benjamin signed with the Chiefs. So what do you expect this Bills offense to look like Sunday?
Speed. We've seen an evolution from the Bills at the wide receiver position. They not only released Kelvin Benjamin the other day, they released a veteran in Andre Holmes. Foster is a guy who got down the field on the first play from scrimmage against the Jets in Week 10. There's a couple other guys out there like a McKenzie. The favorite,
Zay Jones, of course.
Yeah, Zay Jones is the #1 target right now, and he's starting to develop, but he's more of a possession guy. I think with Josh Allen, what you're going to see, since he does have that bazooka as a right arm, is they are going to take shots down the field. They have transformed this wide receiver group, relying more on speed than they have in the past. But, yeah, Jones is more your underneath guy, but they're going to take shots down the field with guys like McKenzie and Foster, and there are a couple other guys there who can get down the field, McLeod, and they're going to they'll take their shots with him, and he's not afraid of putting it up.
I'm glad you mentioned Robert Foster because he was activated from the practice squad the day before the Jets and Bills squared off at Week 10 in MetLife Stadium, and he had a 50-plus yard catch. He's had 8 receptions this season, 256 yards. That's 32 yards per catch. And you mentioned the bazooka, meaning the right arm of Josh Allen. Well, the Jets defense talked about Josh Allen, his arm, his legs, what makes him dangerous.
When he scrambles, he's scrambling to get big yards, and he's gotten some big yards in some games, and so we definitely got to make sure that we tackle well on him. He's a bigger guy and athletic. He definitely doesn't want to go down, so we got to make sure that we tackle well and just try to contain him in the pocket, because when the pocket breaks down, he's looking to scramble.
He's a great quarterback, man. He can make all the throws. He has a hell of an arm, and of course he can run. So it's definitely going to be a tough matchup to slow him down. But we're looking forward to it.
Have you seen arm strength like that this year?
No, not at all. He has a cannon.
Jamal Adams, there it is. He said it best. Josh Allen has a cannon. And there's no better way to put it, because Josh Allen, simply put, does have a cannon. I'm excited to see what it looks like live.
Okay, all right.
But it's time for the results of In the Game with EA on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Again, the question is, Trumaine Johnson, since 2012, has returned 4 interceptions for touchdowns, one of which was last week against the Titans, but he's now tied for 5th in the league among active cornerbacks. Who is ahead of him, EA?
So there's 4 guys ahead of him?
4 guys
tied
ahead
for
of him.
5th?
He's tied for 5th.
Is Malcolm Butler one of them?
He's not one of them. I'll give you some clues, though.
Give me clues. Let's
All
go.
right.
We got to go quick.
All right, batting leadoff, it's Crosstown. It's also the name of a shoe store. His nickname is the name of a shoe store for runners, like yourself, like your dog.
No, don't know.
Janoris Jenkins, number 1.
I would have never thought that.
Number
Jenkins.
2 is out in L.A.
Peters? Marcus
He's
Peters?
tied for 5th. It's the chain snatcher Aqib Talib,
Okay.
tied for 2nd, or he's
chain
number 2.
snatcher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you like that?
yeah.
Number 3, he's a second-year player, and if you were watching this guy
Second-year
on
player.
Thanksgiving, you saw him return one to the house on the noon game.
Eddie Jackson?
Eddie Jackson, there it is.
I love Eddie Jackson, by the way.
All right, and then in front of there it is right there, tied for 3rd with Eddie Jackson. I don't think
Captain
anyone.
Munnerlin?
Yeah, no one would have guessed that.
Is still on an NFL roster
The
right
Panthers, Captain Munnerlin.
now? God,
Tremaine
Captain
Johnson.
Munnerlin has to be 57 years old.
What do you think about this list?
And I got nothing but respect for the captain. The Jenkins one really surprises me.
Yeah.
Did it surprise you at all?
It did. The Eddie Jackson I knew. Aqib Talib I didn't think returned that many for touchdowns. But it's an intriguing list, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. Okay, nice job. I lose.
All right, Jets-Bills, Week 14 in
Norris
Buffalo.
Jenkins.
EA.
What is Jenkins' nickname?
Jackrabbit.
Okay.
You know that?
No.
Okay. Jets-Bills.
I follow the Jets.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Jets-Bills in Buffalo, Week 14. It could be the return of Sam Darnold Sunday.
Yeah, Greens, you're right about that. We have not seen Sam Darnold play since November 4th when he went down with a strained foot against the Miami Dolphins. He's missed the past 3 games. Over the course of his season so far, he started 9 games, 55% passer. He's got 11 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions. Maybe these last couple weeks, whereas he's had the opportunity to observe and watch Josh McCown orchestrate the offense during practice and in gameplay has helped Darnold. And I expect him to go out there with a lot of intensity, a lot of emotion. This is a guy who was so excited on the practice field this week, Greens, that he was wearing a wetsuit. So he's ready to go, and I anticipate a nice performance out of him.
To clarify, it was a wetsuit without the sleeves. It was just to keep the body warm. And if Darnold does start Sunday, this is going to be the first time that the Jets will see Josh Allen because neither Darnold nor Allen played in Week 10.
These guys will be forever linked because the Jets moved up in order to grab Darnold with the number 3 overall selection. Then the Buffalo Bills, actually on draft weekend, they moved up to get Josh Allen out of Wyoming with the number 7 overall selection. These two guys are friends. They trained under Jordan Palmer this spring prior to the draft. I think they share a lot of similar athletic ability in terms of having a strong arm, being mobile, the ability to make plays off script. I like the future of both Sam Darnold and Josh Allen. This is Chapter 1. We're all ready for it to get underway.
The Jets' defense in particular has a very sour taste from Week 10 when the Bills beat the Jets 41-10. And Jamal Adams said this week, it's personal.
Yeah, frankly, the Jets lost the battle in the trenches in Week 10 when the Buffalo Bills came to MetLife Stadium and took a 31-0 lead. On the way to coasting to a 41-10 victory. They amassed more than 200 yards on the ground in that game. Matt Barkley started at quarterback for the Bills. It was Josh McCown starting at quarterback for the New York Jets. But this is a division rival. This is a team that you play twice a year annually. The Jets have to come out with a better performance from what we saw at MetLife Stadium a couple weeks ago, and I anticipate they will.
Jets and Bills, Week 14 in Buffalo. Very chilly temperatures expected. And this is practice today, presented by SiriusXM. But EA and I are back Sunday morning, pregame central, presented by Pepsi at 11 o'clock. And we'll see you Sunday.